Hi, welcome to Wednesday night's live stream. Welcome. We are so glad to have you here tonight. We have a very fascinating topic. We are going to have a conversation about it. But before we do, let's get the likes up. Let's get them up before we talk about it. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this live stream. As I said, I greatly appreciate you here. So let's get the likes up. We're going to have a conversation. We are going to have fun. And hopefully you walk away learning something from this podcast. That's what it's for. Educational purposes. So let's ride it out. Enjoy the vibes. And we will get started very shortly. So again, let's get the likes up. Let's get the shares up. You guys are watching on whatever platform you're watching on. Let's get it up there. And again, let's have fun. So again, I'm ready to start. And we're going to jump into today's topic. No horse playing around. So with that being said, the topic we're going to talk about is, should you have bedroom fun on the first date? Now, obviously, again, we have to, be very careful of the words that we use on YouTube, so the channel doesn't get demonetized. So, should you have bedroom fun on the first date? Now, for some people, it's up in the air. Some people, it's a yes. Some people, it's a no. Some people are just like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. They don't really care. But again, I think there are some consequences attached to having the bedroom fun too early, right? Because a lot of times people will hide behind their excuses to say, well, you need to be bedroom fun compatible, which I think is a lot of BS, because you can become bedroom fun compatible over time. I think by the time you hit a certain age, you should know what you like and what you don't like. So I think it's just an excuse to get it out of the way to say, well, we need to have bedroom fun, but then what's left later on in the relationship, right? Like, let's be honest, what's left later on? So one of my favorite speakers is going to cover the topic. We're going to break down all the points that he says. He is one of my favorite speakers that I'm actually admiring, not to be like, but emulate, and how he conducts himself, how he helps men and women. And again, if you want to go and follow him, his name is Stéphane Labrosière. Stéphane speaks. I think what makes him so great is he doesn't glorify the red pill. He glorifies God, and how he moves and conducts himself is always godly like when it comes to dealing with men and women, which is how I think it should be. You shouldn't have women out here having a bunch of bedroom fun with men, and you shouldn't have men out here having a bunch of bedroom fun, right? So let's get into the video. Let's hear what he has to say on the subject. I got to mute my mic so we can hear everything, and we will break it down.
Many men do not like being by themselves, which is why it's so unfortunate and kind of crazy that there's so many women who really think men don't want relationships. It's not true. They do. These men are not happy by themselves. But what we're magnifying is the small minority who gets more attention, who may have more reason to not be quick to get in a relationship, who have more reasons to hype up a single life. But in reality, most of these men want to have somebody.
Can I ask you a very, it could be.
See, right off the bat, he already came with a banger. Do you think people want to die alone? Like, nobody wants to die alone with cats, dogs, or by themselves. Naturally, as human beings, innately, we work better together, right? And you want someone to share your life with, right? It's a great feeling when you are creating and sharing a life with somebody. So the fact that they glorify single life shows that they're actually trying to create division, instead of actually bringing household units together. You could tell that they're trying to keep men and women like this instead of like this, because like this, there's power in the family unit. But if you can use certain people and you can highlight saying, well, being single so much better, you get like X, Y, and Z, then why are you going to want to get into a relationship? You're never going to want to. You're going to say, well, it's better to be single. Guys get killed in divorce court. Women will say, well, women get cheated on all the time. So then what they do is they highlight the non-benefits of being in a relationship, and then people run with that and say, well, I don't need a relationship. I'm just going to hop around. But do you think it's cute to hop around when you're 40 or 50 years old and you're still struggling to find love? That's a problem. So let's continue on what he has to say.
Controversial question.
Go ahead.
All right. Do they actually want a relationship, or as they get older, they want someone to take care of them? Because there's a big difference.
Yes, and I'll even say some of them want that same care even when they're younger.
Right. I mean, that's true, right? So
Yes.
it's like that's very different, and they want a relationship versus they actually don't want to be alone, and so they have someone to take care of them.
Yes. So okay, and that's a great point. So when we use the word relationship, they're looking for someone that can pour into them. There are a lot of men who, especially they've been coddled by their mothers, they're looking for a new mother, you can say. A new mother who has sex with them, essentially. Okay? So that is happening a lot. I do still say a lot more men than women realize do want a relationship, meaning.
Wow, that was a banger right out the gate. See, I haven't watched this video yet, so I'm learning a lot of things as well too. And I love what he said. Some people are not looking for a relationship. They're looking just for someone to take care of them, because when you're looking for a relationship, you're looking to have two people pour into each other. You see, this is why I'm saying this man's full of a lot of wisdom, because a lot of times we have to define it. Am I looking for someone just to take care of me? Or am I actually looking for a relationship where we can pour into each other? And he's not wrong. Like, some people are looking for like a second mother. Women are looking for a second father. So the intent is not clear, or the understanding is lacking. So I think that is something that we actually have to fix and understand is, do I genuinely want to pour into someone, or am I just looking for someone to take care of me? Right? Because then those are totally two different conversations at that point, right? So again, he dropped a huge gem there. So I honestly hope that you guys walk away understanding, do you want a relationship, or are you just looking for like a caregiver? So we're going to keep kickstarting into the podcast.
They are fully prepared to pour into a woman, many of them to their own detriment. All right. Which is another problem. See, what gets overlooked is the millions of men have been sold the belief of, if you love a woman, you put her on a pedestal, you love her to death, you cherish her, you do everything. And that actually is wrong. All right. Well, let me say this. It's missing context. So what I try to teach, I have a video I did on putting a woman on a pedestal. And my argument, my approach is, you should put her on a pedestal, but she has to understand there are consequences. Now, when I say consequences, I don't mean that in a bad way or an abusive way or anything. It just means that, yes, I'm going to give you the world. I'm going to treat you like a queen. I'm going to love you. I'm going to adore you. But if you do not respect, honor, and pour back into me, you don't get to stay there.
Wow. See, I love what he said, because there is a narrative out there. Treat a woman like a queen, treat her like a princess, put her on a pedestal, right? We all heard it. Guys and girls have heard this. So guys have heard this and they'll do that. And then women expect it, right? But I love the fact that he said it's missing context. And the context is there's consequences for that person not reciprocating or pouring back into you. So what he's saying is, you don't get to stay here. If you want me to treat you like a queen, treat you like a princess, give you the world, go out and fight for you, fight for our family, and you're not willing to pour back into me, like everything is a fight, everything is a struggle, everything is difficult, it's struggle love, then the consequence is you don't get to stay here anymore. I leave. And you see, and I've always said that, like, when a woman loves you, like we're talking about healthy love, she fears the level of consequences, right? To some degree, because we'll see a woman act up one way with one man. She'll berate him, put him down, emasculate him, like just blatantly just treat this man poorly. But with a man that she admires and respects, she doesn't do that because she understands that if she does that, he's either A, going to check the behavior, and B, if it continues again, he has no problem walking away and leaving. And for a woman, when she likes a guy, when a woman likes a guy, she's in a very vulnerable state, right? Like, and in that vulnerable state, she's afraid to be abandoned by the guy that she likes or is interested. We're talking like real, genuine burning desire here. And she's afraid to be abandoned. So a lot of times women will always be on their best behavior with a guy that they admire and respect, because they're like, if I treat him the way I treated like Steve, Chad's not going to deal with it, because his personality already displays that he's not going to put up with that type of behavior. So a lot of times, innately deep down inside, women know when it comes to their behavior on who to portray what with, because they're always going to test you. So they'll do certain things with you to kind of test your boundaries. And if you fail, she's like, yeah, I know I can walk all over this guy. I know I can, do whatever with him, and he'll never check me. He'll still put me on a pedestal. He'll still love me. He'll still care about me. Like all of those things, right? But with the guy that she loves, admires, and respect, when she tests him, it's like he automatically knows, like, yo, knock it off. That doesn't fly here. And he's very secure in that, and also letting her know that within that security, that if it's not reciprocated or poured back into, that he will leave. And for a lot of women, that's very scary. I'm not saying that a man should use that as a tactic for emotional abuse, but there's a level of understanding that the woman understands that she's like, if I do this or act this, and this way, or I'm not reciprocative or pouring into the relationship, this man will leave me. And she doesn't want that. So again, I think he dropped a banger right there. So we're going to continue on in the video.
And removing the pedestal doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to treat you poorly. No, it means I'm going to leave you. I think one of the biggest mistakes a man or woman can make is to let someone think that no matter what they do, you will stay.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay?
Hopefully you guys stay for this long live stream, because this is going to be a long one, because there'll be a lot of gems in here. I love what he said there. The worst thing that you could do is when you're dealing with someone and they know that no matter how badly they behave, that you will never leave. That's a bad situation to be in, because there ends up being a lack of respect, because the guy knows or the girl knows, no matter what they do, no matter what tonality they use with you, level of disrespect, they know that you're not going anywhere. So within that, how can the relationship ever prosper? You're constantly taking abuse as a man or a woman, and they know this. Inherently, they know this. So then they're going to sit there and say, well, I could talk to them whatever way I want to, or I can behave in a way like X, Y, and Z, and they're still going to stay with me. Right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, a woman will never settle if she's like, I want like this, and this in my man. Right? And she'll tell the guy, and she's not willing to compromise. And this is what's interesting. Men who have standards, who say, well, I don't date women who post sexy photos, or women who, go to clubs, bars, and I don't commit to that. They'll hate you at first, but they'll respect you. And if she really respects you, she'll definitely still pursue you, because I've noticed that women are way more adjustable when it comes to the guy that they like. If the guy says, well, I don't commit to women that go to bars. Okay, I don't want to go to bars no more. I don't commit to women that post sexy photos. All of a sudden, next thing you know, sexy photos are gone. And the guy didn't even ask. He just told her, I don't commit to that. And she will always pivot and adjust to the guy that she admires and respects. But again, she has to admire and respect that guy. So what they're talking about here is what's interesting is when you're dealing with somebody and they know that you're never going to leave them, like never ever, no matter what they do, it actually leads to a very unhealthy relationship for both parties, right? Nobody's fully happy or satisfied. So let's continue on it because that was just a booming part. So I had to stop it there and we had to break it down.
No.
You see what I'm saying? See, what you and Tom, what you described with Tom earlier about, you guys agreed whenever there's an issue, you're going to go to therapy, you're going to do all these things. You guys have an understanding that, no, we're not going to stay in a loveless marriage. We're not going to be miserable. We're going to work to make it work. We're going to work to be happy. All right. But if someone thinks I can just do nothing, and no matter if I want to, treat you any kind of way, you're going to stick with me because you love me. Guess what? It's over. The quality of relationship is going down the drain. So I think that men have to understand that, yes, treat her. You can't let someone think. You have to create an environment of why someone would want to even be here. All right. So that's the other thing. What's hitting my spirit right now is this is the other issue that women are having as well. Going back to that whole letting a man chase you, letting a man pursue you, even the advice some women are given where be with a man who loves you more than you love him.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
Yes.
But the reverse does as well. When guys say, well, a happy wife leads to a happy life, that also breaks my heart.
Yes, exactly. It has to be a two-sided affair. We have to be pouring into each other.
See, I like some of the stuff that he said there. You have to create the environment, right? And I think for a man, that's like the most important thing because when you create the environment, you're not doing that to impress the woman, but you're creating an environment where she's like, wow, like because women will always go off of feeling how the guy makes them feel in that moment. So within that moment, if you create experiences for her like all the time, right, she's obviously always going to feel some type of way, which is always great. So you're not always going to like them. As I said, you're going to say things and do things they're not always going to like. But I like what he said is work to make it work. And most people are not doing that. They're literally just like in this standstill of this unhappy relationship or unhappy marriage and literally just sitting there and they're both literally sinking with instead of asking the question of, are we going to work to make this work? And we need to figure that out ASAP. Because you guys always have to be pouring into each other. The relationship is the table, and you always have to ask yourself, what food are we bringing to the table today? Are we going to bring respect? Are we going to bring genuineness? Are we going to bring willful cooperation? Are we going to bring leadership? What food are we going to bring to the table? Because you cannot eat off an empty table. And it is very important that who you're dealing with of what you bring to the table, and the table is the relationship. And that's what you're pouring into each other. Right? Because you guys are complementing each other. So let's continue it on. And as I said, this is a really good episode. Probably one of the favorite ones that I've done.
What a lot of men and women are overlooking is the fact that in this new world of playing these games, so again, let him chase you, let him pursue you, all these things, you're neglecting the fact that you're not creating an environment that he would want to be in. You see? So imagine if I am a job, if I'm Google, whoever, right? And I say, rather than treat you like an amazing employee, I'm going to make you earn working here. So I'm going to treat you like crap, or I'm going to make you jump through all these hoops just to be able to stay and work for me. At some point, I'm going to be like, I can't do this anymore.
Now, there's a reason why I actually unmuted the mic. What he said about jumping through hoops. If you like somebody, and I'm glad that he used like the Google analogy and said, I'm going to make you work to be here. If a woman is making you jump through hoops to be with her, she doesn't like you that much. And that's what a lot of guys are making the mistake in. They're jumping through all these hoops just to get attention from a woman, just to get time. when you know inherently well that if it was a guy that she really likes, she's not making that guy jump through any hoops. Because when women really like a guy, and I have said this, you can go look at Instagram, there's comments. When a woman really likes a guy, she makes herself easily accessible to that man. She does not make it difficult for that man to be close to her. She makes it very easy. So she's not going to make him jump through hoops, not call, send short messages, like just pretty much like, you know what I mean? Like do the push pull thing. Like she's going to make herself very easy accessible because she knows inherently that if he meets another girl and that woman makes it easier for him than she is, he's going that way. Right? So I think it is very important to create an environment where both parties can thrive. So let's continue on in the video.
See, my obsession with working here, maybe because it's so prestigious, maybe because I thought it was to be a dream job, will fuel me for a while. But at some point, if I'm not being treated amazing, why would I want to stay? Or if I stay, why would I want to give maximum effort? So it's the same thing in romantic relationships. If you create an environment where he has to keep doing for you, but you're not reciprocating, why would he want to stay or continue to pour into you? So you'll see this dynamic where women will say, you have these men who act perfect for the first 3 months and then it all goes away. And their way of explaining it is these men are playing games. They're not serious. My explanation is no, sometimes you weren't reciprocating. So why would he want to continue? He was serious. It is very rare for a man who is not genuinely serious to give you 100% maximum effort for a sustained amount of time. It doesn't work that way. Users and players understand they want to get the most for the least, all right? And their goal is to find a couple things you like to reel you in, but they can't nail them all. It's very rare. There's always exceptions to the rule. There's some guys who may be master manipulators who will cover all bases. That's extremely rare. Most guys, it's like, okay, he may buy you things, but he barely calls you and barely talks to you. All right. Or he may talk to you all the time, but when you're in his presence, he treats you like you're his slave and you got to do everything for him. He doesn't pour back into you. There's going to be something that's lacking that shows you he's not consistent across the board. So all that to say, we just have to be very mindful of in this dynamic, are we creating an environment that cultivates a healthy relationship? And the fear is always, well, I don't want to do too much because I'm going to get taken advantage of.
Yes.
Right? But the thing is, how do you expose the person unless you give your true self? Meaning, I always say, like, what's the best way to see if someone's going to steal from you? To hide the money or to leave the money out and see what they do?
That's so good. I've never heard of that. You're so right.
So it's like, what's the best way to see if they'll take advantage of you? To give of yourself. And then once they cross lines that show you that they're going to take advantage, again, you first address it because it might just be a mistake. It might be a misunderstanding. But once it's addressed, if they correct it, problem solved. If they don't, they've exposed themselves.
I love that he said that. See, that's one of my biggest things is if you just show up and let someone be themselves, eventually they will show you their true colors. Eventually they will wear down. Eventually they will slip up. And as he said, there's 2 routes. We talk about it and address it, problem solved, we move forward. Or what happens is we don't solve it, and then you really see who that person is. You know what I mean? So they're either going to expose themselves over time. It always happens. So again, great points. Great points. Let's keep going.
Rather to have that exposed as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying act like his wife in the first couple of dates to expose him, but I'm saying this idea of holding so much back doesn't work in your favor. It works against you. You're only prolonging seeing what do you really have here. You can't see the connection as clear as you need to see it. You can't see their intentions as clear as you need to see it. And rather than being afraid of what they will do with it, be confident in yourself that you can handle it when that time comes. So it's almost like someone will say, well, I don't want to be affectionate on the date because then he may want sex. But you can tell him no. Like, so don't be afraid that he may want it. The concern should be that if you tell him no, he doesn't respect it.
Mm.
And if you're still saying, well, how, you know, he might be abusive and take it further. Okay, so the precautions you can take are putting yourselves in environments that don't allow that to happen.
Right.
So, okay, we go to the restaurant. You can be affectionate in the restaurant. He can only go so far in the restaurant, you know? And once he shows he doesn't respect it, yes, now you know, oh, I can't deal with this guy. But you thinking I have to not be closed off and not affectionate because of how he might take it. Now he's over there thinking you're not interested in him.
That's a very interesting point. And I think a lot of times why men and women are afraid to expose themselves on the first date is because they've tried it before and been hurt. A lot of times we're leveraging our past experiences in our present day. So a lot of times you'll think like, okay, but when I did this and this is how they reacted. So now I don't want to be too affectionate. Now I don't want to be too huggy. I don't want to come on too strong. Right. But then what happens is I love what he said. You end up only screwing yourself because what happens if that's what that person needs? And because you're so like reserved and afraid and fearful, you end up missing out and that person could be your one. But because you let fear drive your decision making and your ability not to say, you know what, I'm just gonna be me and put my cards on the table and let them pick and decide, then you can actually have a better shot. So let's keep going.
Him. Dang, maybe she's not serious. Because for men, physical touch, affection, these are signals for them to say, oh, she actually likes me. So when you're withholding that, it's a problem. And we can just use all kinds of examples, but I don't even know how we got to this part.
I want to follow up with a question though before we go off the subject. This is so fascinating to me because this is one of these subjects that is so confusing. So like one of the things me and my husband have spoken endlessly about is about having sex and like the first time we had sex. And I remember on our first date and he was just like, you know, I don't have sex on the first date. I was like, oh, that's amazing. Okay, that admits that's fantastic. I'm really comfortable. And then he tried it on with me. So I was like, I perceived you as a liar. And he was like, the truth was, he's like, I don't normally like to have sex on the first date. Like he wants to get to know someone. And he was like, but then when we went back, he was like, he was so attracted to me. He's like, his impulse was just like, oh, well, let's just. And so I was like, but you know that I perceived you as a liar. And so that became almost like a little red flag on the early days. And so part of that as well is in that moment, I just had grown up being told all the time, you don't sleep with the guy on the first date because he'll never call you back. And that's always very confusing because I had that idea in that first date. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to sleep with him because, you know, like I'm really enjoying his company. I want to meet up with him again. But it is rather confusing because it's like you are sexually attracted to somebody and you're telling yourself you shouldn't because of the fear that he's going to show interest and then disappear. What is that about?
Okay, so there's a lot of, we gotta dissect this, okay?
Stefan, help us all.
So let me see, which way do I want to start with? So let me start with the fact that he told you he doesn't have sex on the first date, but still tried.
Yeah.
I believe that women should not evaluate the man based off the pursuit or the attempt. It's how he handles the rejection, okay? Because as pointed out in your example, it's true. It happens all the time where men can go into a situation saying, I will not try to have sex with this woman. But impulse, desire, attraction takes over and they push a little bit further than they planned. And like you said, a lot of women will perceive that as you played a game to try to do that. And it's like, no, it just in that moment, that's what happened. How you will differentiate the man who's playing a game or the man who's genuine is if you tell him no, does he respect it? And if you tell him I want to wait, is he patient with you? A man who's genuinely trying to get to know you, who's serious about you, who likes you, is at least willing to be more patient.
I agree with what he's saying here. Because it all depends on how the man handles rejection, right? Like if you're a woman and you really like this guy and you're kind of afraid, you're like, well, if I give it to him, what if he leaves? You need to feel comfortable telling him no and seeing how he handles that. Because if he really likes you, he'll be patient with you, right? And you'll tell him why, like, well, I don't have bedroom fun on the first date because XYZ happened, or maybe there were some traumatic experiences. Like, who knows? So if he really likes you, he'll be more accommodating to you. So that I really do agree with, because if he's not, let's say he's like, no, but like, I really want to do it, then you know that that's not the guy for you and he's just playing games, right? And I think that's important to know, ladies. Like, you can't use bedroom fun as a bargaining tool to kind of keep a guy, to kind of think like, oh, like if I sleep with him, it'll make him stay. He'll gladly take it, but your whole objective is to get him to stay. So I always say, even according to what he's saying, is have a discussion and a conversation about it. Honestly, we're two grown, mature adults. Where did that go out the window? You're going to have uncomfortable conversations sometimes, and you have to be able to see how the person handles conflict and how they handle rejection. And if they handle it in very positive ways, and it's a great indicator to know that you should move forward with them. If they don't handle it in a good way, then you know that you need to kind of retract and maybe leave. So let's let them continue. It's really, really good so far. Like, this is like so good.
All right. Not every man's willing to wait till marriage or whatever the case may be, but he's going to be more willing to wait with you than he would with the woman he's not serious about. Because here's what it boils down to. It's kind of, so I'm going to flip it real quick. There are men who have been coming to me complaining about how women want money so much, how they're meeting women, and within the first couple of dates, she's mentioning bills she has to pay or asking for cash apps. Yes, this is happening. Okay. And what I explained to some of these men is that the unfortunate reality is that, and I don't want anyone to internalize this personally, but their value of you is in those things that they pursue so heavily. All right. And so if a woman really likes a man, she's very cautious about how she handles money with him, as far as asking for it, expecting things from him, because she doesn't want him to feel like she's only after money. All right. You become more concerned when you're really into that person. Well, the same thing happens with men in sex. When a man really likes a woman, he's more concerned about how she perceives his pursuit of it. So he's going to be more careful. He's going to be more willing to be patient. If she says, I want to wait a little bit, he's going to be like, cool, because the last thing he wants to do is to make you think that's all he's here for. But the guy who only wants sex is going to complain, is going to pressure.
Wow. See, that is so true. See, if a guy really likes you, ladies, and you tell him that you want to wait on the sex, if he likes you enough, he will be very patient. But I love the fact that he said if he doesn't like you that much, he will complain and pressure. And that's the thing. You shouldn't have to do that. Like, if someone likes you, they genuinely want to be intimate with you, and you shouldn't have to push for it. If there's like, let's say, because again, there's a lot of guys dealing with like sexless marriages and all that other stuff. So if you're looking at it from that lens, maybe the connection has fallen off and it needs to be replugged back in again. And that's one thing I always say is it's a very delicate topic, sex, but it's a topic that needs to be had. And you need to understand what the person's expectations are, not what they want in the bedroom, but like what their expectations are. Because again, men, as he said, will change their mind. So he won't want to have sex with that woman like right away. But let's say the connection's growing and building. Now he's like, okay, I need to pursue it. I want to have sex with her. And then she sees him as a liar when all he is in that moment is saying, we're vibing so well. I want to share this intimate act with you, right? So that's super important. But then also for the woman, it's also she should also be very cautious of who she attaches herself to when it comes to that. And you need to feel comfortable being able to say, that doesn't work for me, and seeing how that man reacts and how he deals in those situations. So let's continue. We'll keep it going.
Sure, is going to ghost you because you don't want to have. You see, he's going to show you because that's where he put his value for you. Now, he may go to the next woman and be patient with her because it's going to be contingent on the individual. And again, it doesn't mean you are not a great woman. So I don't want a woman who hears this to think, well, if he was rushing to have sex, that means I don't bring that into. No. You could be amazing, but that doesn't mean you're the right woman for him. He's not wired to see your value. He's not built to handle your value.
Oh, that's a nice way of putting
All
it.
he can see is what he wants from you sexually. All right. So once you understand that, it's so much easier. So back to the main point, I think women should focus on it's not the pursuit. Because one quick story, and then we'll move to the other angle of this.
I want to just mark out that tidbit. I like what he said is they're just not for you. They're not built to handle your value. And I think a lot of times we have to be able to acknowledge that. You might be attracted to someone, but you guys are not on the same wavelength and they don't see your value and vice versa. And you need to feel comfortable. I always say we are very comfortable connecting with people, but we also need to understand that we also need to feel comfortable detaching from people. So it goes both ways. So let's get into the podcast, because I think that was, honestly, that's probably a game-changing thing, and that's something I would start to use, is just starting to say, I don't think we see each other's value in each other. We're great people. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. They just don't value what you value or see the value that you have to offer, and vice versa.
I had another client who said she went on this amazing date. Everything was going well. I think they went out to dinner. They went out for a walk. She invites him back to her house for coffee. All right. This is late at night. I forget, she's in a different country. So it's nighttime. They go back for coffee. They sit on the couch. They start kissing. She's willfully kissing this man. So now in kissing, he attempts to push it further for sex. She gets offended. She goes off on him, kicks him out the house, doesn't want to see him again. And then she's hitting me up saying, why are men all about sex? And I'm like, but wait a minute. All he did was attempt. And he attempted it because if I'm that man, plenty of men would assume that you inviting him back to the house, you inviting him back late at night, you willfully kissing and being intimate with him could be a sign of, yes, let's go further. And what women don't understand is, it's so crazy the things that women don't realize are going on. There have been millions of men who have been told they missed out because they didn't try.
Oh.
Yes. All right. And not just missed out on having sex, missed out on anything proceeding with.
That is so true. I love that he said that, because you see, the girl got angry and all he did is try. Right? But if you look at like the setup, they went on an amazing date, went back to her house, had coffee, kissing and intimate. So like for a lot of guys, that's like, okay, green light. Like I'm in her house, it's late night. But women shouldn't take it so offensively, right? Because that's what she did. And she kicked him out. And she's like, I never want to talk to him again. But you see, when you also look at the other side of the coin, I've had some girls tell me, well, Michael, if you would have shot your shot, I would have let you. What? Like my eyes were like, no way. Like I didn't shoot my shot. Like some women flat out told me, if you would have shot your shot that night, we would have had some bedroom fun. And because I didn't do that, because I was very timid, because I've dealt with women before and I shot my shot, and it was more of a sense of all you care about is bedroom fun, blah, 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 blah. But I was just really into them. Right. And they didn't really give like, hey, like I'm not really like feeling it right now because of X, Y, and Z, and give me a chance to handle the conflict well. It was just like, that's all you care about. You don't care about me going off on a tangent instead of understanding that I'm really hyped about our connection. I like what this is. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. That's understandable. But I didn't have a chance to even do that, because it was just, that's all you care about. So I love the fact that like when you look at both sides, when you don't try and you have those women come back in your life and say, hey, if you would have shot your shot, this could happen. And then when you're very passive. So that's why I always say discussions always need to be had, because I know that there's some women that I was dating them, everything was great. Well, they brought it up. They said, hey, I just want you to know that it's okay if we have bedroom fun. Like literally verbalized it. Didn't say it in the moment, but like verbalized it. I just want you to let you know it's cool. And I respected it so much because it's like there was always a lot of like making out and kissing with this one person that I dated, and it was great. Like I never, took it too far. But I get within a week, she tells me like, "Hey, just so you know, I'm cool if we go the extra mile. No problem." And I think that's what the mature way of handling it is. So the video is almost done. We're gonna give our final thoughts, and hopefully you take something away from this.
With this woman, all right. I even remember me one time going back like in college days, went out with a woman, took her out, didn't even try to kiss her. Again, my mentality was be super respectful, whatever. I don't want to make her uncomfortable. Only to find out later that she was waiting for a kiss the whole time.
Yeah, I've been on a date like that. I'm like, do you freaking kiss me? It's a date.
Exactly.
And it's like, then afterwards, I'm like, well, it clearly doesn't even like me.
So and this is perfect. It ties into the friend example who the guy did not pay because the last woman chewed him out. So you have this man. He may have tried to kiss the last woman, and she told him you're moving too fast. Now he's being slow, and now you're thinking he doesn't like me. And you see how confusing this gets. And that's why, to me, it's more about how people handle the aftermath, how we handle the conversation.
See, that's what I was saying in my last message. With one girl, she could say, well, you move too fast. And the other girl might say, well, you're moving too slow. Or like, she doesn't feel that you like her because a move was never made. See, so sometimes for some people it gets confusing and then they don't know how to behave in that moment, right? And it's all about like a conversation, right? And a lot of times, like as I said, for men, physical touch is very important for us. For women, it's very important to be around a man where she craves his masculinity. And if she craves your masculinity, she will welcome your touch instead of repel it. She'll want you in her space, like close. Especially if you're going out for walks, especially if you're going out and doing things, she'll give you subtle hints to kind of show you like, hey, like I want you in my space. I want you close to me. You know what I mean? And she will not repel it because a lot of guys, even as he said, they'll deal with a woman. And because a woman in his past that you move too fast, now he's moving slow here. And the girl's like, I guess he doesn't like me that much. Lost opportunity, right? So I think it is very healthy to understand where somebody like falls on the spectrum through getting to know them and then paying attention to their body, like their body language and how they react to you. So
afterwards, how we handle the rejection, that says more because the initial attempt could just be a misunderstanding. Now, going back to have sex in the
I just want to make sure that everyone that hears that, we're not obviously talking about anybody that pushes the boundaries, steps over the boundaries, abuses anybody.
Yes.
I want to make sure, I know that that's hopefully already assumed, but just in case people get triggered.
Very good point. So now in terms of don't have sex on the first date because he won't call you again. So I always believe that advice is bad. Here's why. I do believe it's best not to have sex on the first date. I believe telling a woman that the reason why not to is because he won't call you is the wrong approach. Because too many women have seen other women have sex on the first date and get the phone call later. All right. And because, listen, if the sex was great, he probably will come back. Doesn't mean he's seriously interested in you. It just means he wants to hold on to this great sex. The correct advice to me is don't have sex on the first date because you need time to evaluate what you're dealing with. And doing it so soon can blind you. Sex can easily cloud your judgment.
Wow. See, he answered the question right then and there. And I'm going to answer it too. I don't think you should sleep with someone on the first date because he's absolutely right. You need time to evaluate, to know who you're dealing with, how they fit into your life. Because a lot of times we're dealing with people, we don't know how they fit into our lives, but the sex is so great and so fantastic. You have blinders on to everything else. You're ignoring red flags. You're not paying attention to everything, but you're just like, yo, the sex is bomb, right? And then you're inviting a problem into your life that you haven't even evaluated. And this goes for both men and women. That's why we say, yes, when you're like hyperly attracted to someone, like you're having a great time and everything else like this is why self-discipline and self-control is so important, because through that self-control and self-discipline, you're going to be like, yeah, I'm attracted to this person, but I need to evaluate where they fit into my life and how they fit into my life. Because if you just go off of, I'm so attracted to them, and then you sleep with them the first night, you haven't evaluated the rest of the things. The sex could be great, but they could have a bad character. The sex could be great, but they could be emotionally unstable. The sex could be great, and they could be like hiding things, a secret life, who knows, secret family, like who knows? So you have to be able to evaluate properly to know what you're dealing with. And that takes time. You need to know, as I said, I always say this, you need to know as quickly and efficiently how they fit into your life. And that's going to take time. And you have to be willing to do that. So again, very, very great point.
So forget him for a second. Forget his respect. Now, listen, there are men out there who will not respect you or not call you if you have sex with them too soon. There are tons of other men who don't care. All right. So you never know what you're going to get. So to me, worrying about what the man's perception is pointless. Think about how you handled this. Can you properly evaluate this man if you have sex on the first date? Are you going to be okay if you have sex on the first date and he doesn't call you the next day? See, for me, and this is aside from any spiritual beliefs, because again, we can talk about wait until marriage, but I understand that most people aren't waiting that long.
Assuming it's not a
Exactly.
religious reason or
yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So I always say, don't have sex for a woman until you are comfortable with what happens next.
That is an excellent point. You need to be comfortable with both outcomes, right? Because there's the situation where he might not call, or there's a situation he might call, but he's only there for the sex. And you have to be very comfortable and be so self-aware to know what it is. If you feel, because again, women were always going to go off of how they feel in the moment. So let's say you're in the talking stages. She might not tell you she might not want to have sex with you, but let's say on the date, inherently she might change her mind because she's like, I'm having a great time, he's fun, I'm attracted to him, whatever, right? And she goes through with having the bedroom fun, and then you don't call again. You always have to prepare yourself for both sides. Every single time you got to prepare yourself for both outcome and what happens next. You don't overly think it, but you say, well, if they don't call, they don't call. But if they do, great. But then you also need to understand, are they here for you or are they here for the sex? So that's why, as I said, it always comes down to heightened level of awareness. And then you have to take time to assess the situation properly to see how they fit into your life.
All right. Because some women are not having sex out of their own desire for it. They're doing it because I want him to like me. I want this to move forward. You know, I'm just enjoying this moment so much. I don't want to mess this up. Let's just go with this flow. They're not truly comfortable. And what a lot of women don't realize is this can backfire in multiple ways. One, again, you had sex with him too soon before you realize he was not serious about you. All right. And now it doesn't proceed as anything else. And now you feel cheated and used. All right. Also,
I want to touch on what he said about a woman not really feeling comfortable. The intent is wrong. So I'm not saying his intent, but I'm saying the intent is wrong. So if you're going in it saying, well, I need to sleep with him so he doesn't stray or he doesn't leave me and go find another woman, you didn't come at it from a genuine angle. You came more of it out of as a fear base, because women know that men want sex. They're very aware of that. So if you're like, well, I have to have sex with this man to keep him, is that really genuine? Instead of coming from a place of, I want to have sex with this man. You see that there's two differences. One is fear-based and one is non-fear-based, right? So then the fear-based decision is the one that you always lose because you've had sex with him out of fear. And then when he doesn't call, you feel used and abused. And I know a lot of girls that that's happened to. They did that. The guy never called them after. But again, a lot of times, that's why we say, women, you always have to kind of give a reason for a man to stick around. And that means is being pleasant outside of the bedroom, who you are, your character, willful cooperation, submission, femininity, all those other things. And then through that, he's going to want to spend more time with you, right? And then through that time, you can get comfortable. And that's morally what it's going to come down to.
I want to be very sensitive of how I say this because somebody mentioned to me that some women might take this to heart too much. If you have sex on the first date, or any time, at any point, the sex now comes into the equation in evaluating if I want to deal with you. If you as a woman are not truly comfortable yet, your performance won't be as great as you think it'll be. Now, this whole thing can be derailed by a misunderstanding sexually. So think about it like this, even, and it happens with men too. If a man, let's say, is very anxious to have sex with this woman, and he does it before he's gathered himself properly, and now he's 1 minute in and it's done, right? So the quality is horrible. And now he's this great guy, but she's like, man, this sex is so bad, I don't want to move forward. But sex is something that you can learn to be better at. This idea, and that's the other reason why this whole sexual chemistry thing is it's misguided in certain aspects. And that's why connection to me is the foundation to it all. Because as long as there's connection, we can work this out. If there's no connection, then you're right. The sex may just be you don't align with each other. But the point I'm going to make is that in moving too fast and going too soon, if we're not comfortable and confident in that experience, we may have a bad experience. And now our ability to come together is derailed because we're holding on to the fact that the sex wasn't that great. And in today's society, a lot of people don't want to work on trying to learn each other. And again, if we don't have a connection yet, we don't have the desire to want to push past this. Now, I will say there are tons of women who get with a man even when the sex is bad. It's one of those things that's happening a lot. All right. I've had women who were in relationships for 2-3 years. Man swore he was doing it big in the bedroom, and the whole time she never had an orgasm with him, nothing. It wasn't that great, but she didn't want to pass up a great guy.
And she wasn't communicating with him, so she was just kind of staying quiet about
Exactly. And so that's another problem with sex very soon. Have you established the ability to communicate about things? Because if you have sex too soon, it's not that great, but you're afraid to mess this situation up. You figure, I'm not going to make any complaints. I'm not going to say.
I think that's a very important key factor. You have to learn your partner. And these days, nobody wants to. So you get with someone, the sex is trash. And the next thing you know, you're like, well, I want out. But it's like they probably just had performance anxiety or they were overly excited. So it's always better, as I said, to have the conversation, not to what you're into, but understand what their viewpoint or how they view it and what's important to them, and have candid conversations where you can build trust and comfortability through it. Those are the best ways to go through it, because that way you understand them and they understand you, and there's comfort and there's confidence. I think those two go hand in hand. There's comfort and there's confidence, right? So again, it's just one of those things where you have to understand is it's not a rush decision on who you should share your body with. It should be one of those decisions that you should make very cautiously, not like in a negative way, but more as a sense of heightened level of awareness to say, I don't just share my body with anyone. I want to be very pre-selective in who I do this with.
Say anything. But now you have to bite your tongue for date 3, date 4. Now we're months into the relationship, years, and you've never told him the truth. And now you feel like you can't. And so now, even though you're holding on to this great guy, the sex is bad. And without great sex, we are severely hindering this relationship and the potential for success. It will fall apart. Bottom line is, if the sex isn't good, it's going to fall apart at some point. All right. All that because you jump too fast without establishing certain foundational principles needed for long-term success. Now, if you're just trying to have a casual relationship, this is a whole different story.
Right.
But if you're trying to have something real, something sustainable, it is best to wait. But I just think the whole he won't call you, that's not the way we should be looking at it.
Yeah, I love the way you broke it down. And I think for me, it was in that moment, I had seen it. My first day with my husband, it was going to be a summer fling. I had to go back to England. He was American. It's not like I actually thought my life would end up the way it was or the way it has been. And so to me, it was a fling. But I was like, I really want to kind
of. I love what he said here, though. If the sex is trash, it will ruin a relationship, right? But good sex comes over time and building a foundation, communication and experiences together that allow great sex to happen. That's morally how I viewed it. You know what I mean? Or how I view it now. And you need time to evaluate that. So a lot of times people are just jumping the gun. And he said they're staying in a relationship with a girl or guy and they're a great person, but the sex is bad. And a lot of people are very afraid to talk to their partner to be like, look, like, can we work on this in the bedroom? Because again, a lot of times people take things very personally, right? They get very offended. You can't be honest and upfront with them because they'll be like, you're attacking me, or they're not very mature. Because we're adults here. You have to be able to take healthy criticism. If someone tells you, hey, you know, our sex life is kind of whack, you need to be able to sit down and openly discuss that and say, well, how can we improve it? That's why you have to learn each other's bodies. It's very important to do that.
of like just hang out for the next couple of weeks, have a lot of fun. I was like, well, but I was very attracted to him. And so the only reason why, if I'm going to be honest, the only reason why I didn't sleep with him on the first date is because I was worried that I wouldn't see me on the second date. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I was extremely sexually attracted to him. So I made the decision based on the fear that I'd been told would happen that you're saying is actually false.
Exactly. But here's the thing. I remember someone said to me one time, plenty of men have not gotten with a woman because she had sex with him too soon. But I've never heard of a man not being with a woman who waited to have sex with him. If he's really into you, if he had to wait 3 months and everything's great, he's not walking away because, oh, well, she made me wait 3 months, so I'm gone now. If he walks away, he was never really that into you and it was never going to go anywhere. All right. But basically what I'm really trying to get at is you're still safer waiting.
Right.
You're less likely to be penalized by waiting. You're more likely to be penalized by moving too fast. I've even seen examples of, here's the other thing that women don't consider. But again, I don't want this to be a reason why she doesn't do it, because going back to your experience, you see, you are worried about he won't see me again tomorrow. I'm still okay with that. Because again, that means you were not ready to have sex yet. Because God forbid, if he didn't see you tomorrow, then you would have been heartbroken.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I would rather you be at a point where it's like, okay, you know what? So rewinding back to where you thought it was going to be.
Okay, I'm going to give my final thoughts and we're going to wrap this up. See, there's more negatives you rushing into sex than there are positives. And I think it is very aware to have that awareness to say, hey, you know, you're not always trying to protect yourself, but you're always trying to assess, to understand, as I said, where they fit in, how they fit in. But you don't want to make fear-based decisions, right? People are going to do what they want to do. Some people are going to have sex the first night, a week, a month, whatever, right? But I think overall, as I said, it's always about being prepared on both sides of the outcome. Because again, you could be in a relationship with someone, the sex can be great, but they're not a good fit for you. But again, you want to stay for the great sex and you don't know how to leave. So I always try to advise men, and I know this goes against like a lot of channels and stuff like that, because they'll say you need to sleep with her as quickly as possible. Women fall in love through sex. That is very true. But I think rushing those decisions and not being consciously aware causes more pain than it does positives, because you sleep with this person right away. Let's say they don't call or whatever, you're heartbroken. It's true. But because you never prepared yourself for both sides, you just said, if I do this action, he's got to stay, because There's nobody out there like me. No one puts it down like I do. And then at the same time, it's like, but there's plenty of other people out there. So you set yourself up for failure overall. So overall, when I look at it and I say, what's the best course of action? Yes, you can be sexually attracted to someone. That is super important. Don't be dealing with people you're not. You can be sexually attracted to someone, but you need to have the discipline to understand where your stances are on certain things and where your principles are. And a lot of times guys will jump at the bones. If a girl says on the first date, hey, I want to have sex with you right away, what guy's going to say no? But again, if you're an aware man, which I think is very important, and a man with discipline, you say, hey, I'm really flattered at the offer that you do want to do this intimate act with me, especially if she feels comfortable and all that other stuff. But you need to tell her as a man, I need to figure out where you need to fit into my life first before we do this. And it sounds like you're shutting her down, but you're really not. You're saying, I value you so much that I want to figure out where you fit into my life before we take this huge act and do it. I need to figure out how you fit into my space. Now, she might get offended at first, but I think there will be like a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Reflection, and say, wow, you know what? This man actually cares about me, because I offered him this and he's not telling me he doesn't want to have sex with me. He's telling me that he needs to reassess to see how I fit into his life. And that means spending more time together, more experiences, bonding, all those other things. Because a lot of times we think great sex will keep a couple together. It won't. But you still need to have good sex within a relationship and other factors to keep that relationship fluent. But great sex is not the cornerstone of a relationship. It's a key component, but not the cornerstone. So I hope that from tonight's broadcast that you got some level of understanding, both men and women, how to conduct yourself. You can do what you want. I'm not here to tell you how to run your sex life or what to do, but I want to help you have the understanding to say, if I'm going to make this decision or choice, how am I making it? How am I going to react to it if I don't get the outcomes that I want? And more from a space of, I need to maybe change my dating style and how I go about doing it. All right. So with that being said, I appreciate everything. As I said, guys, please like, share, subscribe. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. We are taking a 2-week break after this week because we are moving on to season 6. And I am super excited. You guys are going to see a bunch of new stuff. And that week, it is January the 20th. I have a special guest on Friday. So if you guys start liking the content, you guys are going to hear from this special guest on if you should take an X back. And I think you want to hear what this man has to say. So with that being said, we're going to close it up for the night. Please like, share, subscribe. Get this podcast in people's ears and people's hands on Audible, Spotify, all those other things. And I'm really grateful that you guys tuned in for the hour. And I will see you on Friday.